Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I decided today I'd take a little bit of a breather and show you some of the instruments that I have. I want to show you that there's a great variety of instruments, and I only have touched some of them. I have well over 300 in my music collection. Most of them play, and I play most of them. There's a rear violin I have that I don't play. There's a trombone that's in kind of bad shape that I don't play. But most of the instruments I play, and most of them are woodwinds. But when you get into learning music, there are just so many instruments, some of them which maybe you've never heard of, some of them that seem remarkably like toys but play like real adult instruments. And it's just good, I think, once in a while just to take a breather and see what I have and see what people have for instruments. I know I've had people in my home before I moved up in this area, and the reason they were there is they wanted to see my instruments. I even had a person make me a homemade instruments to thank me for showing mine. It was made out of water pipe, and it does actually play. It's like a fife, and it actually does play. So when we grew up, I was a musician early. My sister, my brother, my parents, they were all musicians. And when we grew up, the idea was if you learn how to play an instrument, what you're going to learn how to play is going to be classical music. And that was all right. We liked classical music. We learned to play, and we had the piano lessons first, and then I went into the woodwinds, and my sister continued with organ and keyboard instruments. My father played all the brass instruments and studied at the New England Conservatory of Music. My mother was a keyboard artist and did a lot with accordion as well, played in dance bands, and so we had a good musical background. But you stop to think of the many, many instruments that are available. If children are interested in music and they want to start to play something, there are just many, many instruments that are available for them to choose. And of course, as a teacher, you want to make sure that you have the best instruments available. So I like to show the various variety of the woodwinds, especially the simple instruments, because most of the music that we play, most of the music that we remember, you can play on woodwind instruments. Now, I didn't bring along my saxophones, my clarinets, or my flutes. You know, I didn't bring an oboe or a bassoon over, but I did bring a lot of the smaller instruments that are used. Children use them, adults use them. I see more and more of these instruments used in adult orchestras, and so I just want to give you a panorama and just let you see what's available for people to learn. And of course, the interesting thing is that if you learn one instrument, there's an awful lot that you learn that you can transfer to other instruments. You know, I've studied music for years. I've never had recorder lessons. I've never had lessons on a sassoon flute. I've never had lessons on a fife. But most of the things I've learned from the major instruments can be transferred to other instruments. And the recorder is great because it has like a two octave range in the middle of the keyboard. It has a 2-octave range, but a lot of the fingering patterns can be applied to other instruments. For example, some of the recorder's instruments for the key of C, if I want to play a scale in the key of C, the fingering for that on a saxophone is exactly the same as it is for the recorder. So transference is the rule of the day, and they're also a lot of fun. I went to an orchestra rehearsal. I think I was playing flute, either flute or clarinet, and one of my friends was playing flute beside me, and she had brought in a penny whistle. And so she says, "Have you ever played a penny whistle?" And I said, "No, I hadn't. I wasn't familiar with them." And she said, "You've got to get them. They are so fun to play. You can play anything with them. They're just adorable to play. And you can get them in different keys, and they get a 2-octave range, and they're just so easy." So I went out and I went to our local music store, a very thriving, nice music store, and I bought 2 or 3 of them. Before I knew it, I went back. I bought more and more and more. Little penny whistles, which are all also play a lot of Irish music and Irish flutes. Sometimes we call them Irish flutes. They are made a lot in England, but they come in different keys. You can get the key of E flat, you can get the key of A, you can get the key of C, D. There's all kinds of keys that it comes in. In fact, you can get them that are very long, 2 or 3 feet long, called low D penny whistles and low D sassutos. I didn't bring those in. I stuck with a kind of the smaller instruments, but I will bring those in later, and I have had them in before. So let's start with the penny whistle and what is like a penny whistle. This is a little penny whistle, and this is in the key of D. It does not have a thumb hole in the back. It does, so it's just plain in the back. It's made out of metal with a plastic top to it, a plastic mouthpiece. This, where I have my finger, would be the labium. This is where you blow in. And I'm going to go into how they're made and what happens when you play them. But let me just run up and down the scale. No tone hole in the back, no place to put your thumb. I mean, you just put it where it lands, I guess. Now, the lowest note's going to be the D. But what's similar to the penny whistle? This is just an average-sized penny whistle in the key of D. However, they do come in different sizes. You have something similar to it called a sweet tone. Now, the sweet tone, they comes in red and green. They may have other colors, but that's what I have, red and green. It's conical. It comes to a point. You won't find a penny whistle coming to the point at all. It's just a cylindrical tube, nothing in it but cylindrical tube. Everything that you make noise in is in the mouthpiece part, which is in this plastic part on top. Well, this is very similar, except that it does come to a point, but it's basically the same thing. No tone hole in the back, and it gets 2 octaves easily. It sounds about the same. That's a sweet tone. And this one happens to be in the key of D as well. So it's going to sound and it's going to look pretty much the same as what the penny whistle did. So you also have Clark's. Now, Clark's is a little different. It has a mouthpiece that has wooden. It's a little wooden plugged right here. And I have 2 or 3 of these. One's in the key of C and one's in the key of D, put out by Clark's. It's conical. It has a softer tone because of that wooden plug here. Wooden instruments are usually kind of softer tone than the metal ones anyway. There might come a time when you may want to have a softer instrument, and if it's a softer tone, it's not so squealy as the others. It's a very nice instrument, and I have 2 or 3 of these. So when I say I have 300 of them, I do have over 300. Some of them are like repeats. Now, this is a sassuto. And a sassuto is about the same as a penny whistle type instrument. They play beautifully. There's no tone hole in the back, and I've used this so much, I've actually worn part of the mouthpiece off. You can see I probably should get another one, but it's still very playable, and I don't play it as much as I used to. It's a little bit tunable. You can move this up or down to get it a little bit flatter or a little bit sharper, and it sounds like this. The lower notes are actually a little better quality than the upper notes, but it acts pretty much like a penny whistle, a little bit different in the way that it's designed, where you have a little place on a recorder that kind of swoops up. This is much smaller, and the labium is closer to the top of the instrument. Nonetheless, it plays very well, plays lots and lots of music. I don't think there's anything that you can't play on it. It's just a very nice instrument. Then you see you have the others that have a mouthpiece difference. This is a fife, and it was made in the United States. And the fife is an instrument that you blow across, and it's a little like a flute, except there's no built-up lip plate like you're going to get on the flutes and you're going to get on the piccolos. You just blow across it. I have any number of these. They play well. And most of them, I have some that are wood, some that are metal. They come in different sizes. They come in different keys, and you hold them up like you would a flute, and you put your finger, like all woodwind instruments, and I'll repeat this 100 times probably, but I want you to remember, left hand always goes on the top. Right hand always goes on the bottom, and that's true of your woodwind instruments. There's only one or two when I find that it's a little different than that, but those are instruments played in foreign land that you probably won't ever see here. So this is the little mouthpiece. It's simply a hole that you blow across, and you hold it like this, and you hold it up like you would a regular flute. Now you're going to find, and you're not going to be able to see this, but there is a little piece of wood in the inside so that the air won't go out that side. Even though this is open, in the inside there's a little round piece, and the air can't go out that way. The reason that the flutes have the caps on them on one end is that if you were to blow into a tube across, then the air would go in all different directions, but that you can't have that and have any tones. So they block off. There's a little cap or a little piece in the inside. The flutes have it, the piccolos have it. You don't have it on the instruments that you put in your mouth, because your mouth acts as a cap, and so the air doesn't get backed in. These are nice little instruments. I have one that's 3 feet long, and I will try to bring them in as I go along here. I can't bring them all in at the same time, of course, because it's just too much to carry. So they're really interesting instruments. That's a fife. Now, in this one here, this is made out of bamboo. This is a real Indian instrument. It was made in India. And there is a C on the top of it, just below the mouthpiece. Now, I don't know what that C represents. I tend to think that it's in the key of C. It actually is in the key of C, but it may have another meaning because it is made in a foreign land, and I don't know foreign languages well enough to be able to figure out. It's a very beautiful instrument, all hand-carved, and there are little decorations, although I don't know as you can see them very well. Maybe if I hold it this way, there's a little design right below the mouthpiece, right around here, another design around here, and also on the bottom of it. It does play fairly well. You blow in, and the labium is right there. No tone hole in the back. Now, I have a number of these. Some of them do well. You'll find that the tone holes are probably about the same size, and they don't vary in size or in position. When you get into some of these instruments, that the tone holes are going to be different in size to accommodate the differences in your fingers, but you don't get that in this. Nonetheless, this is a really well-working one from the country of India. Now, this one is Moroccan. This is a Moroccan flute, and it's called an end-blown. An end-blown flute means the mouthpiece is this little tiny piece right here, and then the labium is on the other side, and the tone holes are on the front side. So you've got the mouthpiece and the labium on the back side of the instrument. The tone holes have to be in the front, of course, because that's where your fingers are going to be. There's no tone hole in the back, but as I turn it, you see this is the labium right here. There's lots of interesting little decorations. It's all handmade. And I do like it. The trick to playing these end-blown instruments is that you've got to have your mouthpiece over that little slit that acts like the mouthpiece, but not covering the labium, which is close to the top on the other side. So you kind of have to gauge where you put your mouth. If you do it right, it does play well. Actually, it plays beautifully. I want to just try it here. You get that kind of a tone. I didn't cover my mouth over the labium, otherwise there wouldn't have been a tone. And I did cover my mouth where it's supposed to be here. Some of them are very expensive. I've seen people come from foreign countries and play them, and they have a gorgeous tone. And sometimes I've tried to find an instrument that would mimic that same kind of tone among the instruments that I already have, because I have a lot of them. But I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to mimic it. There's a little bird symbol on the back. I don't know if you can see that very well. But anyway, they're all handmade. They're all very beautifully done. And this is bamboo. There's a little tiny hole on the bottom of it where some air escapes. And most of the instruments, the holes aren't that closed. If you look at the Indian instrument, excuse me, I can get my finger in it, so it's not closed up by that much. Now, if you're looking at American instruments, you can make music out of anything. I usually bring this sometimes when I demonstrate. This is a little cheap piece of plastic. I paid less than $1 for this. It plays. Now, it doesn't play well, but it does play. It makes some squealing motions, and the plastic is so inexpensive, you actually can bend it. I won't bend it much. I don't want anything to happen to it. It's a good teaching tool, and the mouthpiece is right here, and it's pinched off. If I can hold this just right, you can see it's kind of pinched off right there. It's made like that. When you blow into it, the air comes right out of the labium, and it doesn't really have a block on it. But if I look inside, and see, you can't do that because you can't get close enough to see it. It actually directs the air out like it would if it was a regular instrument. No tone hole in the back. So you can only get 3 or 4 notes. More of a toy, but a wonderful teaching tool to show people how these are built, because they're very simply built, but they work well. On this one here, it's closed up at the bottom. I think most of the air goes out the labium. Not much of it goes out to the bottom. Most of the instruments that are woodwind, their bottoms are open. They're not closed up. But in this one, it's just a cheap little thing. And you can get all kinds of, this is what I call a melody flute. I have a number of them. This is just, the brand name is Melody. You can see that the mouthpiece has a labium practically right on the mouthpiece, but in the back, there's a place to put your thumb, both thumbs. There's a little place that's built in just for you to be able to put your thumbs, and it's good for teaching children the right position of holding your hands. Now, these don't play very well, but they do play some, and they play, the children love them. They love the bright colors, and a lot of people love the bright colors. They come in different colors. This one here is pink. It's the same brand name. I've got them in blue, pink, you name it. I've got them in just about every color in the book. And when I go and do seminars, I sometimes order extra and let people take them home and play with them, because they're kind of fun. Now, they do have an orange one. I brought this orange one with me. I had a purpose in doing so. The orange one came with me, and I have another orange one that looks very similar, but this is not a Melody. This one here in my right hand is a Pearl Piper, but don't they look alike? They play differently. The Melody doesn't play well. I'm going to maybe try it. Maybe I can get 2 or 3 notes out of it. Well, it's better than I thought it was. It's good for children just to play around with. But the Pearl Piper that looks so much like it is actually quite a good little instrument. I've actually have done solos on the Pearl Piper. Lower notes aren't quite as clear. You wouldn't be able to do that on the regular melody flute. So there are tons and tons of little melody flutes that you can play. And when I think what I'll do is I'm going to close it here, but I got a lot more to show you, which I'll do next time around. And we're just dealing with the smaller instruments. I haven't brought in the melodicas, I haven't brought in the basses, I haven't brought in the regular woodwind instruments or the flutes or the piccolos and all of that, or the larger ones. But I'm going to keep going with this because I want you to realize how many kinds of instruments that you have to choose from if you want to play. And it's not all classical music. Now, I love classical music, so I'm fine with it. But there are a lot of people who just want to play. They just want to be able to play a song. They just want to be able to walk down the street. I have a friend of mine, every time someone walks out on the street, he holds a recorder and he starts playing it, you know? So there's a lot to choose from, and I want to get into how they're built and why they work the way they do. So I'm going to close it here. Please join me next time.